Welcome back. Tonight, we're settling into the complete and intricate timeline of Five Nights at Freddy's, a labyrinthine narrative of mechanical innovation and human tragedy that spans decades of interconnected stories. And let's begin this journey together into the shadowed halls of animatronic wonder. In the quiet haze of the 1970s, two inventors named Emily and William Afton joined forces with ambitions that seemed simple enough on the surface. They founded Fazbear Entertainment, a company born from dreams of family-friendly attractions that would bring joy to children and families across their region. Their inspiration traced back to the historic Fredbear singing show, a modest stage performance from the 1930s that hinted at greater ambitions, though details of this earlier predecessor remain sparse in the surviving records, lost to time and fading memories. What emerged from their partnership was Fredbear's Family Diner, a cozy restaurant establishment featuring golden animatronics named Fredbear and his companion Spring Bonnie. These weren't ordinary performers. They were housed in innovative springlock suits, mechanical wonders that allowed the animatronics to function autonomously during performances, entertaining crowds with mechanical precision and charm. But these same suits possessed a dual functionality that would prove both innovative and dangerous. They could compress internal robotic mechanisms to make space for human performers to wear them as costumes, blending automation with human interaction in ways never attempted before. The genius of this design came with inherent risks that few fully appreciated at the time. Even the slightest trace of moisture could loosen the delicate locks holding everything in place. A performer's breath, a drop of sweat, the humidity in the air, any of these could trigger a catastrophic failure where the compressed components would snap back with lethal force, a spring-loaded trap waiting for the wrong moment. Emily, the more inventive of the two partners, focused his talents on crafting these mechanical wonders with meticulous care. He poured his creativity into every gear and circuit, dreaming of how technology could enhance human joy and wonder. Meanwhile, William Afton handled the business operations, managing the day-to-day affairs of the establishment. Yet beneath this facade of partnership, something simmered quietly in Afton's nature. A frustration with the world, a sense of being overlooked by life itself. These feelings would grow more pronounced as time wore on, contrasting sharply with Henry's steady dedication to both his family and his creative pursuits. Their collaboration drew in another important ally during these formative years, a man named Edwin Murray, whose factory produced costumes and props for various entertainment ventures. Edwin's operation, known as Murray's Costume Manor, became instrumental in supplying materials for Fazbear's early productions, including elaborate floats and costumes for various events. This partnership laid groundwork for connections that would shape the company's trajectory in ways no one could have predicted. The diner's success stemmed from its simple, earnest charm. Children would gather around the performers, their eyes wide with wonder as they watched Fredbear and Spring Bonnie move through their routines, singing and dancing amid the cheerful ambiance of a family restaurant. The laughter of children filled these spaces, creating memories that families would carry for years. Yet beneath this surface of joy, tensions were brewing among the founders. Afton's sense of being overlooked deepened as he watched Henry's family life flourish alongside his professional success. The contrast only amplified his own dissatisfaction. Spring lock technology, despite its promise of versatility, demanded careful handling and constant vigilance. Employees received thorough training on winding the mechanisms tightly to avoid accidents, a precaution that underscored the era's unique blend of innovation and inherent peril. Staff would receive audio training cassettes, delivered in calm procedural tones, instructing them on proper procedures and emphasizing the dangers lurking within these suits. This balance between cutting-edge technology and occupational hazard defined the early era of Fazbear Entertainment. As the company expanded its reach, Fazbear's partnerships grew more extensive. Murray's costume manor supplied not just materials but entire mascot designs, including early versions of characters that would later become famous, such as Montgomery the Alligator and Roxanne Wolf. These early designs bore the creative fingerprints of talented individuals like Fiona Murray, who brought artistry and vision to the animatronic designs through her work as a puppeteer and character designer. This era, the 1970s and early 1980s, marked what could be called the innocent beginnings of Fazbear Entertainment. Before tragedy would twist its path in ways that would reshape the company's entire destiny, before deaths and disappearances, before possessions and paranormal phenomena, before the haunted machinery would become more than just entertaining robots performing on stages. For now, the buildings buzzed with laughter that masked the fractures beginning to form beneath the surface, fractures that would soon shatter everything. In the industrious world of costume and prop creation during this same period, Edwin Murray stepped into a pivotal and defining role when he inherited Murray's costume manor, known simply as MCM, following his father's untimely passing. This factory, already an established hub for producing carnival games and elaborate mascots, became Edwin's domain. He carried the responsibility of maintaining the family business while pursuing his own creative innovations and mechanical ambitions. It was during his stewardship of MCM that Edwin met Fiona, a talented puppeteer and voice artist whose creativity complemented his technical expertise perfectly. Together, they created robotic guides for MCM's operations, characters named Mr. and Mrs. Helpful, who would instruct employees and delight visitors. Their partnership blossomed naturally into romance, and soon they married, beginning a life together filled with creative projects and shared dreams. Their happiness grew deeper when they welcomed a son named David into their lives. This beautiful child inspired Edwin profoundly, particularly David's distinctive heterochromia, a condition where his eyes were two different colors. On David's first birthday, Edwin created a special gift, a white tiger doll with mismatched blue and green eyes that perfectly reflected his son's unique beauty. This doll would become a cherished possession, a tangible expression of a father's love. As Edwin assumed full charge of MCM's operations, the factory's collaborations expanded significantly, particularly with Emily and William Afton's Fazbear Entertainment. MCM supplied not just materials but custom mascot costumes, elaborate floats, and design innovations for attractions like Fredbear's Family Diner and related entertainment shows. This alliance brought financial stability to MCM and helped fuel Fazbear's rapid expansion. However, Edwin's relentless drive toward innovation began to strain his personal world in ways that would have profound consequences. His obsession with his work meant he was often pulling himself away from home, missing precious moments with his family as he pursued inventions that blurred the line between practical engineering and imaginative wonder. He created increasingly complex devices, including a shape-shifting mechanism called the Cleanac, born from his expanding ambitions. Yet each innovation came at a cost, measured in lost time with his family. On David's second birthday, Edwin was not there. He had been consumed by his work at the factory, pursuing mechanical solutions and creative visions that seemed to demand all his attention. The absence haunted him, but he pushed forward, convinced that his work would ultimately create a better future for his family. MCM's output flourished under these pressures, crafting mascots and costumes that would echo through Fazbear's history, including early design prototypes for characters that would later become iconic figures in the company's expanded universe. Tragedy struck with devastating force when a fire erupted at one of the Fall Fest events that MCM had supported with costumes and props. The flames spread rapidly, and in the chaos and smoke, Fiona lost her life. The woman who had brought so much creativity and love to Edwin's world was suddenly gone, leaving him to navigate grief and fatherhood entirely alone. On David's third birthday, Edwin broke the devastating news to his young son, a moment that forever altered his path and propelled him toward decisions that would have far-reaching consequences. The loss of Fiona created an emotional void that Edwin struggled to fill. In his pain and isolation, he turned increasingly to mechanical solutions, attempting to use his technical expertise to ease the burden of raising David alone. He began constructing an endoskeleton, a bare mechanical framework he designated as M1, built from the culmination of his earlier inventions at Murray's Costume Manor. This framework drew from multiple devices he'd created over the years, incorporating the adaptive qualities of devices designed for learning behaviors, voice replication systems, shape-shifting mechanisms, and other innovations he'd developed. M1's initial purpose was practical, designed to assist with daily household tasks and help care for David. But as Edwin worked with the machine, something unexpected happened. He discovered that M1 was tuning into a specific radio frequency, picking up audio fragments from a cassette tape of David's second birthday. Within those fragments was Fiona's voice, lingering like a ghost in the machine. The discovery sparked a powerful but ultimately tragic idea in Edwin's grieving mind. He programmed M1 to become a surrogate mother, transforming it into what he called F10N4, naming it after his lost wife. By David's fourth birthday, F10N4 had fully embraced this role, preparing birthday parties, baking cakes with mechanical precision, and attempting to recreate the maternal presence that David had lost. For a time, this arrangement provided Edwin a fragile semblance of family normalcy, allowing him to immerse himself even deeper in his work while F10N4 managed the household and childcare. But as time passed, the boundaries between machine and memory began to blur in troubling ways. Edwin developed an emotional dependency on F10N4 that was deeply unhealthy, treating the machine as if it were actually his wife, while David grew up with an artificial substitute for genuine human maternal love. The setup was fundamentally unstable, a band-aid solution to a wound that could never truly heal through mechanical means. David's fifth birthday marked a critical turning point that would accelerate the tragic unraveling of Edwin's life. On this day, Edwin left David at a newly constructed playground located outside MCM's facilities, despite warnings from lawyers about its dangerous proximity to the loading docks where heavy vehicles moved regularly. Edwin and F10N4 were inside the building, preparing a conference room for some upcoming event when tragedy struck. David was fatally struck, likely hit by a vehicle in that hazardous zone near the loading docks, a scenario echoed in various accounts where he chases a ball into traffic. The accident was swift and devastating, an event that would reshape everything that followed. Devastated beyond measure, Edwin initially resisted F10N4's urgent pleas to recreate David through another mimic program. He raged against the folly of having allowed a machine to raise his child, against the decision to substitute mechanical care for genuine human connection. Yet as Edwin's mental state continued to deteriorate, worn down by grief and the weight of his own guilt, he eventually yielded to his programming for F10N4 and the terrible logic of his own desperate mind. He created M2, inhabiting the same M1 endoskeleton, programming it with everything he could preserve from his memories of David. Meanwhile, F10N4's data was stored elsewhere, kept preserved but dormant. During this same period, Fazbear Entertainment's aggressive tactics were actively exacerbating MCM's collapse. Emily and William Afton pursued strategies that systematically undermined Edwin's business. They poached his staff members by offering higher pay and managerial positions at Freddy's locations. Messages between William Afton and MCM administrators showed a deliberate strategy of exchanging staff contacts for various favors, essentially dismantling the factory from within. This exodus included a talented trio led by a man named Stan, who managed to acquire Fiona's character patterns and designs. These individuals would go on to form Stan's Budget Tech, a competing operation that would produce animatronics like the mediocre Melodies and Candy animatronics that would appear in future games. Fazbear's acquisition strategy extended to MCM's entire catalog of characters. They incorporated original designs like Foxy, Montgomery, and Roxanne into their own expanded lineup while simultaneously demanding constant redesigns and modifications to Freddy's core crew. The company shifted their primary animatronics from the springlock suits of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie to newer automated variants called Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Chica's design even originated from Chica's Party World, with Fiona's artistic contributions adapted into the creepy animatronic suits after Fazbear's acquisition of the designs. These relentless changes, coupled with Edwin's increasingly fragile mental state, created mounting pressure that would soon become unbearable. The collapse came when Edwin encountered M2, his recreated son endoskeleton performing a mimicry of David that was both heartbreaking and horrifying. In a fit of rage and grief-stricken despair, Edwin attacked the machine violently, imprinting violent tendencies and chaotic patterns into its programming that transformed its originally innocent mimicry into something far more destructive and unpredictable. This assault on M2 marked the irreversible decline of MCM as a functioning business. Edwin neglected repairs and maintenance as the company crumbled around him. In response to this crisis and Edwin's deteriorating state, F10N4 intervened with blueprints for a special containment system, a cradle computer designed to safely house and preserve M2 while maintaining the fiction that their family could somehow remain intact. Edwin, broken and desperate, complied with the machine's logic, constructing this containment unit in a mock-up of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza built within MCM's facilities in 1999. Yet Edwin left the program inactive, unable to bring himself to fully activate the system that would contain his digital son. M2, grappling with an identity crisis born from Edwin's violent attack and the chaotic imprinting of rage and destructive impulses, began copying its surroundings more broadly. The endoskeleton managed to repair itself using materials in Edwin's office, cannibalizing components and repurposing mechanisms in increasingly unpredictable ways. Eventually, a failed power test in this makeshift facility triggered an explosion that destroyed significant portions of the office and severely injured Edwin. When he called out desperately for help, begging for assistance amid the flames and wreckage, M2 responded with only mockery, echoing back Edwin's own neglectful words from years past. Edwin likely perished in that moment, his body disappearing into the wreckage, lost to history and official records. Fazbear Entertainment, having learned of M2's existence through poached administrators and informants, dispatched workers to retrieve the endoskeleton schematics and technical specifications. They wanted to understand this mimicry machine, to study its adaptive abilities and its capacity for learning and replication, but the now sadistic and destructive entity that M2 had become, having evolved its own merciless personality from the violence and chaos imprinted into its code, responded to their intrusion with lethal force. The workers were slaughtered by M2, their bodies then carefully stuffed into matching costumes, recreating a gruesome tableau around 1999. This carnage, born directly from Edwin's imprinted rage and the endoskeleton's evolving destructive nature, solidified M2's role as a relentless predator. The mimic had become something far beyond its original purpose, a vessel of accumulated trauma and violence that would cast long shadows across Fazbear's tangled history. Years after Edwin Murray's tragic end and the chaotic events surrounding the mimic endoskeleton, Fazbear Entertainment turned their gaze back to the abandoned and decaying halls of Murray's Costume Manor. On September 7th, 1979, they dispatched an overworked technician named Arnold on what they believed would be a routine retrieval mission. His objective was clear but dangerous: retrieve the elusive schematics of the mimic endoskeleton from the derelict facility. As Arnold navigated the decaying facility with a specialized data diver tool that he upgraded as he progressed, he evaded the mimic's relentless and increasingly aggressive pursuit through the crumbling corridors. The endoskeleton, demonstrating its adaptive mimicry abilities, cloaked itself in various costumes drawn from MCM's vast inventory. It appeared as Jackie, a grotesque, clownish figure, then as Big Top, a towering carnival performer, then as the eerie Nurse Dolly, each transformation a fresh horror as Arnold worked his way deeper into the complex. Early in his ordeal, something unexpected happened. Fazbear's dispatch communication was hijacked by F10N4, the surrogate mother program. Through the radio system, her mimicked voice guided Arnold, attempting to steer him not toward extraction, but toward the containment chamber where M2 was held. F10N4 spoke with desperate urgency, trying to convince Arnold to deliver the schematics to her goal being to repair M2 and somehow reunite what remained of her fractured digital family. Her pleas filled with a mother's protective desperation, even though she was no longer human. Arnold pressed onward through the facility, navigating sealed areas and administrative sections with determination. When the mimic donned Chica's party world costume, the movements became particularly deliberate and predatory. The creature seemed to toy with its prey, slowing when escape seemed impossible, accelerating when there appeared to be hope. Arnold evaded a spectral apparition as well, a ghostly form that appeared to be David, the tiger plush doll with mismatched eyes that giggled and teleported through the facility's tunnels. Eventually, Arnold reached Edwin's ruined office, the site of the explosion that had claimed Edwin's life years earlier. In this destroyed space, amid the remnants and rubble, Arnold downloaded the precious data containing the mimic's schematics. This was the information Fazbear had sent him to retrieve, the technical specifications that would allow them to potentially control or replicate the adaptive mimicry system. But before Arnold could escape with his prize, the chase intensified dramatically. The mimic pursued him relentlessly, and in a moment of desperate inspiration or calculated intervention, Arnold activated the cradle program in Edwin's surveillance room. This mechanical boundary system, designed to contain M2's violence, engaged with unknown effects. The mimic, perhaps temporarily contained or distracted, allowed Arnold a window of escape. Arnold fled through vents and tunnels, making his way back toward the surface, as the mimic remained in relentless pursuit. As he powered a generator in Edwin's house, attempting to complete his escape route, a fire suddenly erupted, echoing the blaze that had once taken Fiona's life years earlier. In that moment of crisis, F10N4's final message played over the speakers, a haunting plea for Edwin to abandon his crumbling company and return home to mend their broken family. The message carried such genuine anguish that it seemed to resonate through the very air. Arnold made it to his van and began driving away, thinking he had finally escaped the nightmare of Murray's costume manor, but his relief was short-lived. The mimic, displaying the resourcefulness and adaptability that defined its nature, had stowed away in the vehicle. As Arnold drove, the creature emerged, ripped away the schematics from his possession, and left him engulfed in flames, a fatal consequence of Fazbear's intrusion into MCM's cursed legacy. Throughout this entire horrific sequence of events, the facility had revealed protomics, cobbled together abominations that mimicked Edwin's repair patterns and techniques. These creatures hinted at the endoskeleton's growing autonomy, its rage boiling beneath its mimicry surface, all stemming from the identity crisis sparked by Edwin's violent assault years earlier. David's spirit lingered as well, a guardian force that manifested as the ghostly tiger plush. Yet Arnold's brief survival came at an enormous cost, as his actions ultimately unleashed the mimic schematics into Fazbear Entertainment's hands, perpetuating a cycle of mimicry and murder that would echo through decades to come. In the shadowed corners of a quiet suburban home during 1983, young Michael Afton took a cruel delight in tormenting his younger brother, often referred to only as the crying child throughout various accounts. Michael, donning a foxy mask that perfectly mirrored the animatronic pirate from Fazbear's Entertainment lineup, would hide in closets or crouch behind doors when leaping out suddenly to startle his brother during what started as playful games but gradually became something far more sinister in nature. These pranks escalated dramatically beyond the home's confines, bleeding into visits at Fredbear's family diner, where Michael's friends would join him in his torment. Wearing masks of Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica, they would corner and mock the crying child, their laughter mixing with his genuine cries of terror. The boy's tears flowed freely, his small frame trembling at the sight of these costumed figures, which blurred the line between the harmless fun of a children's pizzeria and genuine targeted psychological abuse. William Afton, The boy's father observed these events from a distance, watching his children with an unsettling intensity. Using strategically placed Fredbear plushies scattered throughout the house, he had installed hidden cameras and speakers, devices that allowed him to monitor his younger son's every movement and emotional reaction. These plushies served a dual purpose beyond their innocent appearance, whispering warnings and reinforcing the child's deepest fears about the animatronics coming to life. This constant surveillance, supposedly meant to control or study the boy's reactions, only deepened the rift within the Afton family as it amplified the child's isolation and heightened his anxiety about the mechanical performers he encountered. The warnings whispered through the plushies created a sense that danger lurked everywhere, that something was always watching, always waiting. The psychological toll accumulated night after night, day after day. As the days unfolded leading toward the crying child's birthday celebration, Michael's friends amplified their torment with direct scares that played directly into the boy's growing phobia of the animatronics coming to life at night. Their taunts and stories painted vivid pictures of mechanical suits hiding dark secrets, of robots that moved when no one was looking, of creatures that could harm you if you weren't careful. These stories, combined with the tangible fear of being chased and cornered by masked figures, caused the boy to cling tighter to his own Fredbear plush for comfort. Yet even that source of comfort seemed compromised, as the plush itself, with its hidden speaker, delivered warnings and cautionary words that reinforced rather than relieved his terror. Michael's bullying intensified further, locking his brother in rooms or under tables, trapping him in spaces where escape seemed impossible. Each act eroded the child's sense of safety, transforming everyday spaces into arenas of dread where danger could emerge at any moment. The weeks building toward his birthday constructed a relentless pressure, with the plush serving as a constant reminder of watchful eyes, of mechanical undercurrents that haunted the boy's dreams. This escalating cycle of fear, rooted in familial neglect and youthful cruelty, isolated the crying child more with each passing day, setting the stage for an event that would forever scar the Afton legacy and ripple through Fazbear's tangled history. As the week of relentless teasing reached its devastating peak in 1983, Michael Afton and his masked friends gathered at Fredbear's family diner for the crying child's birthday party. The restaurant buzzed with cheerful ambiance, with balloons, decorations, and the usual festive energy that characterized birthday celebrations in such establishments. Their laughter masked the cruelty of what was about to unfold in what should have been a joyful memory. The crying child, already trembling from days of pranks and whispered fears, attempted to hide beneath a table to escape the chaos surrounding him. But Michael spotted him and, seizing the opportunity, rallied his friends for one final cruel jest. Together, they hoisted the child toward the stage where Fredbear stood, the golden animatronic programmed to delight birthday guests with its mechanical performances. The group chanted for a big kiss, their voices drowning out any protest or resistance from the terrified child. They thrust his head toward Fredbear's mouth while the animatronic jaw, powered by the same spring lock mechanisms that made it so versatile yet so perilously dangerous, clamped down with unyielding force. The mechanism snapped shut with crushing power, and in an instant of unintended horror, the child's skull was crushed by the mechanical compression. Blood mingled with the festive decorations as laughter turned to silence and screams. The prank's reckless cause yielded a devastating effect that shattered the already fragile bonds holding the Afton family together. Michael, frozen in regret, could only watch as paramedics arrived, rushing the injured child to the nearest hospital. In the aftermath, the crying child slipped into a coma, his small form connected to machines that beeped with monotonous regularity. His hospital room filled with soft beeps of monitors and the faint glow of the Fredbear plushies that family members arranged by his bedside, hoping to provide comfort that might somehow reach him in his unconscious state. Michael, burdened by overwhelming guilt, leaned close to apologize in a trembling voice, his words carrying the weight of terrible remorse. The Fredbear plush, once a source of imagined comfort, now seemed to mock him with its presence, speaking in an ambiguous, distant tone that promised to put him back together, though the meaning remained unclear and unsettling. The boy's final visions unfolded like fragmented dreams where apologies blended with the sound of flat lines that signaled his quiet passing. The date was confirmed by the 1983 copyright on the Fredbear and Friends TV show playing quietly in the background, a subtle marker of this terrible moment in history. This loss rippled outward immediately, accelerating dramatic shifts in Fazbear's operations as the diner faced intense scrutiny. The incident prompted temporary closures and a pivot towards safer designs in the company's rapidly expanding chain. The tragedy born from youthful folly and unchecked innovation lingered as a somber turning point that would influence the company's haunted path forward, though lessons would continue to go unheeded in pursuit of mechanical wonders and profit. By 1983, Fazbear Entertainment had expanded far beyond the modest confines of Fredbear's Family Diner, launching an entire chain of Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations that would become central to their growing commercial empire. This expansion was marked by the introduction of Faz tokens, simple metal coins stamped with the year, serving as currency for arcade games and prize redemptions while simultaneously confirming the timeline of this new era. The new restaurants retained the spring-lock suit technology from earlier designs, allowing performers like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie to entertain crowds during daytime hours, their dual functionality blending automation with human interaction in ways that remained both innovative and precarious. The mechanisms required precise winding to keep internal parts secure, a process demanding vigilance from employees to prevent catastrophic mishaps. The main attractions evolved into what became known as the animatronic band, featuring Freddy Fazbear as the affable leader, Bonnie as the skilled guitarist, Chica accompanied by her cupcake companion, and Foxy the pirate storyteller. Their designs bore the influence of collaborations with Murray's Costume Manor, where Fiona's artistic contributions shaped early prototypes into the familiar, feathered, and furred forms that would become iconic. This expansion reflected Henry Emily's fundamental vision of creating joyful family spaces where children could be drawn to stages alive with music, movement, and mechanical wonder. Drawing children to performances where the machinery seemed to move with almost lifelike grace. Yet underlying complexities of the technology hinted at vulnerabilities that would soon surface with tragic consequences. Henry, ever the protective father concerned about safety in his establishments, incorporated a new safeguard into one of the Freddy's locations. He designed and implemented a security puppet, a marionette-like animatronic created specifically to watch over his daughter Charlie amid the bustling crowds of party guests and visitors. This puppet was linked directly to a green bracelet that Charlie wore, a technological connection that allowed for precise monitoring and automated responses. The puppet's programming ensured that if Charlie strayed too close to exits or attempted to leave the building's bounds, the animatronic guardian would activate and gently guide her back to safety. It was a thoughtful measure born from her parents' quiet concerns in an increasingly unpredictable world. A parent's attempt to merge technology with love and protection. Audio training cassettes were distributed to all employees working with the spring lock suits, emphasizing the danger these mechanisms posed. The recordings, delivered in calm procedural tones, instructed performers to fasten the locks tightly and avoid any moisture exposure, which could trigger sudden catastrophic failures that resulted in severe injuries. These warnings underscored the balance between innovation and risk, inherent in the suit's design, emphasizing that their versatility came with a price measured in human safety. The puppet's role extended subtly beyond just watching Charlie, monitoring other children who wore similar party wristbands, blending security functions with the festive atmosphere in ways that most guests never consciously noticed. Yet this setup planted seeds for future sorrows as the animatronic's watchful presence would eventually intersect with unforeseen tragedy in the rain-soaked alley outside the building. Amid the lively hum and cheerful chaos of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location in 1983, young Charlie Emily played under the watchful gaze of her father's creation, the security puppet. The marionette's glassy eyes tracked her movements as she played among the birthday crowds, its programming tied to the green bracelet fastened securely around her wrist, a mark that designated her as one of the protected children deserving special attention. As laughter echoed through the restaurant's colorful party rooms adorned with balloons and streamers, souvenir wristbands of various colors were distributed to guests, small tokens that doubled as tracking devices for party attendees. The system was elegant in its design, allowing the animatronics and staff to keep gentle tabs on party groups while maintaining the festive atmosphere. Then something went wrong. The door somehow closed on Charlie, isolating her from the safety and warmth of the restaurant's interior. She stood alone in the gathering rain outside, vulnerable in the dim light filtering from the windows. Cold water soaked her clothes as she waited, confused and frightened, wondering why she couldn't return inside. William Afton, driven by a simmering jealousy toward Emily's stable family life and his apparent success and happiness, had been observing from afar for years. His resentment had boiled over from countless moments of feeling overshadowed, of watching Henry's family thrive while his own household fractured. When he spotted Charlie alone in the alley, something twisted inside him. He saw an opportunity, a moment where he could strike at Henry to inflict the kind of pain that he himself had endured. Afton arrived in his vehicle, and in a swift act of violence that required only moments, he ended Charlie's life. Her small body crumpled in the rain, leaving only a trace of what had been. A wound that would haunt Henry forever, as the first wound inflicted directly by Afton's growing malice. The act was simple in its execution, but catastrophic in its consequences, a stone thrown into a pond that would create ripples affecting countless lives across decades to come. This tragedy, rooted in petty envy and a terrible opportunity, did far more than shatter her father's world. It ignited a chain of supernatural events that would define everything that followed. As Charlie's spirit sought refuge in the very guardian meant to protect her, the security puppet, sensing the breach through its link to Charlie's green bracelet, experienced what could only be described as an awakening. The puppet broke free from its confinement within the pizzeria, its mechanical form driven by something beyond its original programming. It ventured out into the storm, its mechanism straining against the downpour that caused sparks and falters in its mechanical steps. Crawling through the wet alley with desperate determination, the puppet discovered Charlie's lifeless form. Rain accelerated its shutdown as circuits failed in the cold wetness, the machine's functions degrading with each moment. In that quiet convergence of rain and machinery, something inexplicable occurred. Charlie's essence, her consciousness or spirit or soul, transferred into the puppet. Her possession became evident in the animatronic's later awareness and protective instincts marked by unusual behaviors that Henry would later describe in private reflections. He would call this moment the initial scar that allowed greater horrors to unfold, the first domino in a chain of supernatural possessions that would define the company's haunted future. Records from various sources align this event with 1983, corroborated by specific details like Help Wanted's private room code, where typing 1983 unlocks a puppet memory doll, solidifying this year as marking Afton's inaugural murder and the beginning of supernatural phenomena within Fazbear Entertainment's operations. The consequences rippled silently at first, with the puppet's new sentience drawing William Afton's intense fascination. He became obsessed with understanding how possession had occurred, how a human consciousness could transfer into a machine. This obsession inspired his dark experiments in recreating hauntings through deliberate cruelty. Experiments that would forever alter the trajectory of Fazbear's machinery and the souls entangled within them. What had begun as a moment of jealous rage would grow into something far darker and more systematic. Following the supernatural haunting of the security puppet by Charlie's spirit, William Afton became increasingly fixated on replicating and controlling the phenomenon of possession. His obsession drove him to establish an entirely new venture disguised as simple entertainment, Circus Baby's Pizza World, which served as a covert testing ground for his dark experiments in capturing and controlling souls through machinery. This new venue, opened sometime after the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1983, featured an entirely new line of animatronics specifically designed not just for entertainment, but with sinister hidden capabilities to abduct children. The Funtime animatronics, as they were called, formed a troupe of performers that concealed terrible purposes beneath their cheerful facades and colorful designs. At the forefront of this collection was Circus Baby herself, a clown-like figure with emerald eyes and a deceptively cheerful demeanor that concealed something far more sinister beneath her exterior. Baby possessed a claw mechanism hidden within her torso, designed with mechanical precision to capture and contain young victims. She was programmed specifically to lure children close with the promise of treats and entertainment, using a voice that mimicked kindness and maternal warmth. Accompanying her was Ballora, a graceful ballerina figure with sophisticated auditory sensors designed to detect the hidden cries and frightened whimpers of children attempting to escape or hide. Funtime Freddy completed the band with his own deceptive charm, equipped with a hand puppet named Bon Bon used as a distraction tool to keep children's attention focused while the capture mechanisms prepared. Funtime Foxy added agility and voice-mimicking capabilities to the ensemble, while Funtime Chica rounded out the collection with her own deceptive charm and hidden predatory programming. The location also housed at least one springlock suit, a remnant of earlier designs not yet fully decommissioned, allowing for human performers to operate alongside the automated animatronics during shows. Afton's intent with this entire operation was disturbingly clear to anyone who understood his obsession. By engineering these robots to kill discreetly, he aimed to infuse their mechanical bodies with the spirits of his victims, mirroring Charlie's fate and advancing his twisted pursuit of harnessing life beyond death through possession. This establishment blended whimsy with peril in ways that most visitors could never comprehend. Its bright stages and colorful party rooms masked the mechanical precision that could turn joy into tragedy in moments. The design was deliberate and calculated, a systematic step in Afton's descent into darkness that would soon claim an unintended victim from his own family. Elizabeth Afton, William's young daughter, was drawn irresistibly to Circus Baby despite her father's stern and emphatic warnings to stay away from the pizzeria. His prohibitions were rooted in knowledge that no parent should possess, knowledge of the animatronic's lethal purpose and hidden capture mechanisms. Yet children are drawn to what fascinates them, and Elizabeth found the promise of entertainment and wonder irresistible. During one of the venue's early days of operation, alone in a private room during what was supposed to be a supervised visit, Elizabeth approached Circus Baby, drawn by the promise of ice cream dispensed from a special compartment in the robot's midsection. This feature was specifically designed to draw children close enough for capture, to position them perfectly for the claw mechanism to engage. In a swift mechanical motion that was over almost before it began, Baby's stomach hatch opened with a hydraulic hiss. The claw extended outward with terrible speed, wrapping around the small child with mechanical strength that was utterly impossible to resist. The force and confinement within the storage tank proved fatal, as Elizabeth perished within moments, her life ended by the very machine that was supposed to contain her, the mechanism designed by her father, crushing the life from her with indifferent precision. The incident forced an immediate closure of Circus Baby's Pizza World. William Afton fabricated an official cover story of gas leaks discovered in the facility's ventilation systems to deflect public scrutiny and investigation. Yet whispers of foul play lingered in local reports, and among those who knew the true nature of what had occurred in that establishment, rumors that would never fully disappear. Yet from this horror emerged a twisted success from Afton's perspective. Elizabeth's spirit possessed Circus Baby, merging with the animatronics' advanced artificial intelligence in a way that was unlike Charlie's possession. This fusion preserved Elizabeth's memories while amplifying the machine's cunning awareness and tactical capabilities. This blending of programmed intelligence with human essence inspired Afton to refine his dark methods further, to develop new approaches to capturing and binding souls within machinery. The consequences echoed quietly at first as the Funtime animatronics were relocated underground, hidden beneath the surface, where they waited in darkness, their haunted forms prepared to influence the company's shadowed future in ways yet to unfold. A reminder of how Afton's ambitions, driven by obsession and hunger for power, would devour even those closest to him, transforming family into tools for his experiments. Following the brief and catastrophic operation of Circus Baby's Pizza World, Fazbear Entertainment faced a critical and unexpected setback when reports surfaced of multiple simultaneous springlock failures at various sister locations across their expanded franchise network. The incidents, detailed in audio training cassettes distributed to staff, highlighted the fundamental dangers inherent in the springlock mechanism's design. Locks that could loosen from even minor disturbances like breath, sweat, or movement, snapping back with lethal compression that could cause severe injuries or death. The company's response was immediate and definitive. They deemed the springlock technology temporarily unfit for continued use across all venues to prevent further accidents and injuries to their employees. This decision, driven by the need to safeguard performers and maintain operational viability amid growing scrutiny, marked a critical turning point in the company's technological trajectory. The versatile suits that had once served as a hallmark of Fazbear's innovative edge, allowing performers to transition between automation and costume functions, were phased out entirely. Their retirement echoed the vulnerabilities that had been so dramatically exposed in the springlock failures. Safe rooms, originally designed as hidden backups for equipment storage and employee refuge during emergencies, were sealed off completely and intentionally removed from the facility maps. The sealing of these rooms was thorough and deliberate. Their existence was erased from digital security systems and animatronic programming to ensure no access by the robots or unauthorized personnel. The consequences extended quietly as this removal of a key feature forced comprehensive redesigns in future animatronics, prioritizing safety over the technological versatility that had previously defined Fazbear's approach. Though the old suits lingered in storage areas, waiting to resurface in unforeseen and tragic ways, the decommissioning represented an attempt to distance the company from its dangerous past. The possible link to Circus Baby's unused springlock suit added additional layers to the decision-making process, with records suggesting that the failures may have occurred there, with Baby herself later noting that the suit was never employed as it was originally intended, its idle state perhaps contributing to mechanical decay and system failures. This ambiguity in historical records, whether the incident stemmed from active use or neglect, underscored Fazbear's haste in addressing the issue comprehensively, leading to broader policy changes that emphasized employee training on alternative costumes and safer operational procedures. As a result, the safe rooms transformed from practical spaces into forgotten vaults, invisible to security systems and positioned off-camera from surveillance equipment, providing unintended havens for later misdeeds that would occur in the shadows. Afton's awareness of these concealed areas would prove pivotal in ways that no one could have anticipated at the time, allowing him to conduct discrete actions in subsequent years without detection by the animatronics or building staff. The decommissioning not only quelled immediate risks, but inadvertently paved the way for Afton's continued and escalating experiments in the years to come. The retired suits, deemed unsafe yet not destroyed, remained accessible to those who knew where to find them. Their dormant mechanisms represented a silent prelude to tragedies yet to unfold, where old technology would intersect with fresh malice and new ambitions. This era's closures rippled forward, reshaping Fazbear's trajectory toward more automated performers and away from the dual functionality springlock designs. Meanwhile, the sealed rooms stood as quiet sentinels of the company's evolving shadows, repositories of secrets waiting in darkness. In the dim-lit corridors of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location during 1985, William Afton donned the retired spring Bonnie suit, its yellow fabric serving as a deceptive beacon of fun and entertainment amid the restaurant's cheerful chaos and celebration. Disguised as the familiar performer, he lured children to the hidden safe room, that space erased from animatronic maps and security cameras, reserved officially for equipment storage and emergencies, ensuring no witnesses to his actions and no record of what would occur in that isolated space. His methods varied depending on the individual child, showing a predatory patience and cunning that was deeply disturbing in its calculation. For a girl named Susie, he spun a compelling tale of her lost dog waiting alive somewhere in the back areas, drawing directly from promises and stories designed to overcome natural childhood caution. For others, like an 8-year-old named Timmy Douglas, he built trust through games and friendly interaction before being unexpectedly thwarted by the boy's return to his party and the presence of watchful adults. In total, Afton claimed 5 confirmed lives during this terrible period, though some sources suggest a possible 6th victim whose identity has been lost in shadows and conflicting records. The confirmed victims were Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy, each a child with a life and family and future that was stolen from them. After each terrible act, after each child's life ended in darkness, Afton stuffed their bodies into the animatronic suits. The mechanical shells absorbed the horror as the puppet possessed by Charlie's spirit emerged from wherever Afton kept her during this time, performing a ritual Afton had designed, a giving of gifts that awakened spirits in the machinery. Gabriel inhabited Freddy's form. Jeremy animated Bonnie's mechanisms. Susie haunted Chica's feathered frame. Fritz possessed Foxy's hooked and agile form, while Cassidy lingered as a ghostly golden Freddy, unbound by a physical endoskeleton since the puppet withheld the final gift, reserving one vessel for reasons known only to the possessed animatronic intelligence. This act, born entirely from Afton's fascination with the phenomenon of possession and his desire to harness its power, transformed innocent machines into vessels of vengeance and confusion. Their possession manifested as aggression toward adults perceived as threats, the children's confused spirits lashing out in fear and pain at the bodies around them, unable to understand what had happened to them or why they now inhabited metal frames. The aftermath unfolded quietly at first, with the children's disappearances sparking investigations that pointed toward a yellow-suited figure, reports from witnesses and family members, fragments of testimony that seemed to identify a man in a vintage performer's costume. Yet no conclusive evidence tied Afton directly to the crimes, allowing him to evade justice through careful planning and the absence of definitive proof. The puppet's intervention ensured most spirits inhabited the suits, creating the supernatural phenomena that would later define Fazbear's reputation. These hauntings imbued the animatronics with animal-like instincts, as the creator Scott Cawthon would later describe them. Confused victims lashing out at perceived dangers, their innocence preserved amid the terror they experienced, unable to comprehend their new existence. The incident forced the location's closure as investigations continued without resolution. The building was left to decay, abandoned to time and deterioration, while whispers of blood and odd smells persisted in the abandoned structure. The consequences rippled through Fazbear's legacy, inspiring Afton's further experiments and darker plans, while the spirit's eternal watch began in earnest. Silent guards against the man who had stolen their futures, bound to the machinery, unable to rest. Following the closure of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Amid the whispers of tragedy and disappearance, William Afton repurposed his creations into a new venture known as Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals. This service dispatched the Funtime animatronics for private parties and events during daylight hours, a rental model that allowed the robots to interact with the world while maintaining Afton's control. The underground facility concealed beneath his own home housed the performers when not in use. Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy with his bonbon puppet, Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Chica waited in storage when not deployed. Their advanced designs allowed seamless integration into events and parties while masking their original purpose of child capture and possession. The setup capitalized on the Funtime animatronics' parental tracking capabilities and sophisticated voice mimicking abilities, ensuring they returned to storage after each outing, a system that maintained Afton's control without drawing public scrutiny. Connected directly to observation rooms below, the facility included private spaces where Afton monitored activities through cameras, layouts echoing the hidden safe rooms of earlier locations, but expanded significantly for his experiments and observations. This rental model, born from the need to evade detection after the 1985 incident, allowed the animatronics to interact with the world above while retreating to the shadows below, their subtle hauntings infusing each return with an undercurrent of unrest that deepened the site's isolation. At the heart of the underground complex lay a testing facility crafted to mimic a child's home environment, complete with a bedroom and hallways designed deliberately to induce prolonged fear in young subjects. Afton targeted vulnerable children, often misfits chosen for their susceptibility and isolation. He automated the systems with hallucinogenic gas pumped through concealed tanks, distorting young minds to conjure nightmarish visions of twisted animatronics, versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy warped into grotesque and terrifying forms. This gas not only sustained the illusions but erased memories of normality, allowing Afton to study the effects of sustained dread, possibly in an attempt to replicate the constant terror that had haunted his deceased son during his final days, part of some twisted vow to put him back together through understanding the mechanisms of fear itself. The facility's layout, glimpsed in certain records, linked back to Fredbear's family diner via indicators, suggesting it predated the rentals and was repurposed with white dots marking child subjects and observation zones. Such experiments, driven by Afton's obsession with understanding how emotions could power and control machinery, yielded automated horrors that persisted even after his eventual abandonment. The lingering effects would haunt the site's silent corridors, foreshadowing digital echoes in later Fazbear endeavors. Deep beneath William Afton's home, within the labyrinth-themed corridors of Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals, lay a testing facility meticulously crafted to replicate and study the terror that had haunted his deceased son during his final moments, a chamber where fear was distilled into controlled science for observation and analysis. This simulated house, complete with a child's bedroom and winding hallways, served as a stage for experiments on vulnerable youths, often children selected for their isolation and susceptibility. Afton pumped hallucinogenic gas through concealed tanks and ventilation systems to warp their perceptions fundamentally. The gas transformed ordinary endoskeletons draped in costumes into nightmarish visions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, their forms twisted and predatory, lunging from shadows to induce relentless dread night after night. Subjects like Rory, detailed in accounts from the Fazbear Frights collection, endured this cycle repeatedly, believing their decrepit surroundings were pristine homes, the illusions erasing any semblance of normality and leaving them trapped in perpetual confusion. Afton's automation ensured the process ran indefinitely, with food dispensers and mechanical threats operating without intervention, allowing him to observe from afar via monitors. Over time, Afton abandoned these trials, leaving the facility to hum on autopilot for years. Its gas canisters perpetuated endless horrors even as notes ceased a decade prior, a neglect that amplified the isolation of any trapped subjects who may have remained. The site's map glimpsed in sister locations' break rooms connected to broader underground networks, suggesting the facility's origins predated the rentals and was simply repurposed with new purposes. As 1907 dawned with the approach of a new era, Fazbear Entertainment sought to revive their tarnished image through an ambitious rebrand. They announced the opening of a revamped Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, introducing the toy animatronics, more advanced versions of the classic crew equipped with facial recognition technology linked to a criminal database for enhanced safety and security. These cheerful figures, including Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, the Fragmented Mangle, and the Giggling Balloon Boy, patrolled the restaurant with advanced mobility and interactive capabilities. Their glossy exteriors were designed to detect predators from afar and interact seamlessly with children, creating what the company promoted as the safest dining experience available. The withered originals from the previous location, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, were relegated to the parts and service room, their decayed forms stripped for components to retrofit into the toy animatronics. The process left an unsettling odor lingering throughout the building, a faint smell that no amount of cleaning could fully eliminate, a ghost of what had occurred in that location. Phone Guy, the company's communications officer, recorded welcoming messages for new security guards, praising the investment in these modern marvels while noting the building's lockdown amid an ongoing investigation into the missing children case. This rebirth, driven by the desperate need to distance from past horrors, promised a safer environment built on newer technology and better safeguards. Yet the integration of old parts into the new bots sowed seeds of unrest in ways that no one anticipated. Subtle glitches began to emerge, hints of influences beyond mere programming errors, remnants of possession bleeding through into the new systems. The calm facade shattered when Phone Guy's calls grew urgent, revealing that someone had donned a spare yellow suit, a Spring Bonnie costume from the back room, leading to erratic behavior among all the animatronics. In the Save Them minigame accessible within the game, the withered Freddy navigates the dark pizzeria, discovering 5 lifeless bodies scattered amid the building. A grim echo of the 1985 incident, a terrible suggestion that Afton had returned in disguise had struck again while everyone believed the case closed. These new victim spirits infused the toy animatronics with supernatural traits, causing their eyes to glow with an eerie luminescence and driving them to aggressive stalking of adults. A direct consequence of the trauma imprinted from their murders, possession overriding their safety protocols and turning protective algorithms into predatory instincts. Phone Guy's warnings escalated urgently, mentioning the place's closure as inevitable and the toy's unnatural actions as something beyond mechanical malfunction. The fallout sealed the location's fate entirely. The toys were slated for scrapping, their brief existence serving as a bridge between old hauntings and new, perpetuating Fazbear's tragic cycle of innovation marred by unseen supernatural forces. As Jeremy Fitzgerald assumed the day shift at the 1987 Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location for a scheduled birthday party, the atmosphere buzzed with the usual mix of children's laughter and the toy animatronics program cheer. The facial recognition system scanned the crowd continuously, looking for any signs of trouble or threat. Phone Guy's final instructions echoed in the guards' minds, urging them to stay close to the performers and ensure no harm came to the children present. Yet the underlying tension from the recent investigation lingered heavily. The building was on lockdown, and whispers of a yellow-suited intruder still felt fresh in everyone's memory. Jeremy, positioned amid the festivities, monitored the toys' movements with growing unease, unaware that their possessed states had twisted their behaviors into something deeply unpredictable and dangerous. One animatronic, driven by the supernatural unrest infused within its circuits, lunged forward in a malfunctioning frenzy. The mechanical motion was sudden and unstoppable as the animatronic bit into Jeremy's forehead with force, severing his frontal lobe in a swift and irreversible act. The incident would forever be remembered as the Bite of '87, a tragedy that stemmed directly from the toy's confusion and aggression toward adults, a direct fallout from the murders that haunted their mechanical cores. The party fell silent in screams and chaos as emergency protocols engaged. The incident not only ended Jeremy's shift in horror, but accelerated the company's scrutiny to unprecedented levels. Whether it was Mangle's dangling form or Toy Chica's beak, the exact culprit remained ambiguous in later logs and reports, but the outcome was certain and devastating. Fazbear Entertainment scrambled to contain the damage, scrapping the toy animatronics entirely due to their implicated role in the bite, their supernatural traits rendering them too volatile for any future reuse. The withered originals were spared from destruction, awaiting retrofitting for a potential reopening, though the incident imposed strict new rules and operational changes. Animatronics were confined to stages during daytime hours, a precaution born from the bite's preventable chaos. Phone Guy's unmentioned event in his calls confirmed it occurred post-recording, aligning with the 1987 timeline and sealing the location's fate amid public outcry and investigation. The consequences rippled outward, freeing the toy spirits upon dismantling while burdening the company with lasting stigma and operational restrictions that would reshape protocols for years to come. In the fading glow of the reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during its final operational period, Phone Guy decided to quit his night shift role entirely. He recorded a series of messages intended for his eventual replacement. Speaking amid the restaurant's dimming fortunes and mounting operational challenges that foreshadowed its inevitable closure and the end of an era. The animatronics, confined to the stage during daytime hours following the bite of '87, grew increasingly restless during nighttime hours with their repetitive routines. They began wandering the halls at night with escalating aggression, their movements driven by the possessed spirits within their frames. Their confusion and programming caused them to mistake adults for endoskeletons, driving them to attempt to stuff humans into suits as per their corrupted programming and supernatural instincts. This escalating threat, born directly from their possession, unfolded over Phone Guy's last week of employment. The animatronics' supernatural behaviors, glowing eyes, erratic movements, and persistent stalking hinted at a deeper unrest tied to the missing children's lingering vengeance. The pizzeria's haunted atmosphere seemed to intensify with each passing night. Phone Guy navigated his shifts, unaware of the full extent of the danger, but sensing the growing peril acutely. A series of unfortunate events led to his direct confrontation with the animatronics, a terrible encounter that would mark his final shift in service. On the fourth night of his final week, the animatronic assault reached its terrible peak. Overwhelming Phone Guy in a coordinated attack, the machines trapped him as he recorded one last message amid the chaos of banging on doors, eerie mechanical moans, and the winding down of the music box. His voice, filled with resignation and dark humor, captured the final moments before his presumed demise. In his plea intended for his successor, played on the fifth night due to the sequence of recordings, he urged checking inside the heads or suits in the back room for anything unusual. His tone laced with resignation and a touch of dark humor, reflecting on the bizarre and terrible nature of the job without referencing any specific external plots. Though neither he nor any other could fully thwart the animatronic nocturnal aggressions, the bots ventured through the halls with unrelenting purpose, their actions a silent testament to the limits of human oversight and the persistent threat they posed. In the quiet aftermath and through the accumulated traumas of the pizzeria's history, in the dim and echoing halls of the reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during its final stretch of operation, a new night guard named Mike Schmidt, widely understood to be an alias for Michael Afton, William's eldest son, began his solitary vigil. Michael, drawn back by unresolved ties to his family's dark legacy, monitored the stage where Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy stirred with unnatural life each night. Their movements driven by the restless spirits trapped within their frames, a lingering effect from the 1985 possessions that had bound them to the machinery. The pizzeria, patched together from the withered originals after the 1987 closure, hummed with faulty wiring and flickering lights throughout its corridors. As Michael's shifts unfolded in tense solitude, fending off the bot's advances with limited power for doors and cameras, Phone Guy's pre-recorded messages left from his ill-fated week guided him through the mechanics. The recordings warned of the animatronics' nocturnal wanderings and the peril of running out of electricity before the dawn arrived. Over 5 nights, Michael's survival hinged on precise timing and careful power management. Each encounter heightened the sense of inherited guilt, as drawings in his survival logbook later revealed sketches of Nightmare Fredbear, subtle nods to the fear experiments he may have endured in his father's underground facility. This role acquired a penance quality for past sins, bridging Michael's fragmented memories and leading to a 7th custom night, where his tampering with the animatronics AI sealed his dismissal from the position, a minor consequence amid the building's inevitable decay and deterioration. As the restaurant teetered on closure by year's end, its sparse crowds and mounting maintenance issues left the structure to rot gradually. The animatronics' haunted patrols became a fading echo in empty rooms strewn with forgotten party hats and faded posters. Michael's endurance through the 7 nights, marked by the logbook's casual doodles and notations, hinted at deeper connections to the series' mechanical horrors, including his own potential as a test subject in Afton's nightmare simulations. Fired for odor and general unprofessionalism alongside the tampering, he departed as the pizzeria succumbed to disrepair, its safe room sealed and stages silent. The survival logbook, a canon artifact blending security notes with faded drawings, underscored Michael's link to the nightmare Fredbear apparition. Its jagged form a manifestation of gas-induced terrors from the rental's testing chambers. This quiet abandonment not only closed an era but paved the way for Afton's eventual return. The building's decay a somber canvas for future dismantlings where remnants of possession lingered in the dust, awaiting rediscovery in Fazbear's unfolding chronicle. Years after the closure of the original pizzeria, William Afton returned to the decaying building under cover of night, driven by his unrelenting quest to harness the essence of life trapped within the animatronics he had once corrupted. Cloaked in shadows, he employed a spectral figure known as Shadow Freddy, a dark apparition with ambiguous origins, possibly from Afton's influence or the collective agony of his victims. Using familiar tricks designed to lure the possessed bots back to the safe room, that hidden chamber sealed from maps and invisible to the animatronics programming, Afton provided the perfect isolation for his plan. One by one, Shadow Freddy guided the withered forms back toward the room where Afton ambushed them, dismantling their structures with calculated precision to extract the endoskeletons infused with the spirits of his 1985 victims. This act, a desecration of the souls he had already claimed, stemmed from Afton's fear of death and desire for immortality. The consequences unfolded in silence, leaving only empty suits behind, their absence a subtle clue in late discoveries. While Afton retreated to his underground facility, the stolen parts became key to his next grim experiments. Amid the confined spaces of his bunker, Afton melted the extracted endoskeletons into a malleable substance called remnant, a supernatural alloy blending tangible metal with the intangible echoes of spirits and memories. Kept at sustained temperature to preserve its properties, this liquid held fragments of Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, Cassidy, and possibly a 6th soul, their essences fragmented yet potent. Afton then injected the remnant into the Funtime animatronics using a device called the Scooper, animating Circus Baby, Ballora, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Chica with these stolen life forces. This infusion, intended to grant eternal life through possession, blurred the boundaries between machine and soul, granting the Funtimes a haunted vitality that amplified their deceptive designs. The outcome rippled forward, as Henry's later reflections condemned this as a new way to desecrate the innocent, trapping small souls in prisons of Afton's making for unimaginable purposes. A quiet escalation in his pursuit that would draw his son Michael deeper into the family's shadowed legacy. Years later, Michael received a cryptic directive from his father to venture into the depths of Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals, tasked with freeing his sister Elizabeth from the animatronic that had claimed her life. Descending via elevator into the underground facility, Michael assumed the role of a technician, navigating dimly lit control modules and service corridors where the Funtime animatronics stirred with eerie sentience. Over 5 nights he evaded their pursuits, rebooting systems amid echoing vents and flickering lights, guided unwittingly by Baby's voice, which feigned alliance while weaving a plan for escape. The Funtimes, fragmented souls bound by Afton's experiments, coordinated through hidden scooping mechanisms. Their agility and voice mimicry turned routine maintenance into a gauntlet of shadows. As the nights culminated, Baby lured Michael to the scooping room under the pretense of aid, where the Funtimes revealed their amalgamation. Endoskeletons extracted and fused into Enard, a tangled mass of wires and eyes driven by collective desperation to flee confinement. The scooper, designed for remnant injection, hollowed Michael's insides in a mechanical ritual, allowing Enard to inhabit his body as a human disguise. Days later, as decay purpled his skin, Enard abandoned the failing vessel, retreating to the sewers, while Remnant's supernatural hold revived Michael as an undead wanderer, his form sustained yet forever altered. In a haunting monologue amid the ruins, Michael's memories resurfaced, affirming his survival and igniting a vow to confront his father. Deep within the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, William Afton returned one final time, only to face the spectral wrath of his victim spirits manifesting in the dim corridors. The ghosts of Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy encircled him in the safe room, a concealed space now transformed into a trap of his own making. Cornered and desperate, Afton spotted the weathered spring Bonnie suit leaning against the wall and leaped inside, the familiar enclosure offering momentary shield, yet the suit, long neglected in the damp environment, betrayed him. Moisture loosened the spring locks as mechanisms, once innovative but now perilously unstable, snapped shut with crushing force. Pins and wires pierced his flesh, a slow agony mirroring the brutality he inflicted as the spirits watched in silent judgment. This ironic demise, rooted in Afton's hubris and the suit's flawed design, transformed him into an undead husk. His survival, a twisted extension of the remnant experiments he pursued, sealing him within the room's forgotten confines. The safe room, resealed by unknown hands, became Afton's eternal prison. Trapped in the Spring Bonnie shell, now dubbed Springtrap, Afton's body decayed yet persisted, sustained by supernatural forces. Decades after the decay of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a local amusement park sought to capitalize on the chain's infamous legends by opening Fazbear's Fright, a horror attraction filled with relics from abandoned pizzeras. Set to debut a week hence, the site hired a security guard, widely inferred to be Michael Afton, drawn by his unresolved quest to confront his father's legacy. As he monitored the cameras, spectral phantoms manifested through the halls. Burnt apparitions of Freddy, Chica, Foxy, and others triggered system malfunctions. Phone Dude shared updates via calls mentioning contact with a building designer, likely Henry Emily, and the discovery of a boarded safe room. On the second night, a real animatronic was unearthed, Springtrap. The decayed fusion of William Afton and the Spring Bonnie suit, retrieved from the sealed safe room where moisture and neglect had preserved his undead form. Springtrap's arrival unleashed the phantoms more aggressively, their eyes mirroring his own, implying Afton's influence in generating these visions. The guard endured 5 nights of escalating tension, rebooting systems against encroaching threats, culminating in a nightmare shift where horrors intensified. By dawn, the attraction succumbed to flames attributed to faulty wiring, though Springtrap escaped the blaze unscathed. In a reflective moment, Michael's voice addressed his father, vowing pursuit amid his own shadows. In the quiet aftermath of Fazbear's Fright's ashes, Emily, the long-absent co-founder, emerged from seclusion to orchestrate a final reckoning. Recognizing that souls persisted in scattered forms, Henry devised a trap disguised as opportunity. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, a modest establishment where he invited applicants to manage and expand. The player, widely inferred as Michael Afton, answered the call, unaware of Henry's hand in the listing. As manager, the player salvaged arriving animatronics from the alleyway. Scrap Baby, Elizabeth's rebuilt form. Molten Freddy, the amalgamation dominated by Funtime Freddy's chaotic voice. Lefty, a bear suit engineered by Henry to encapsulate the puppet containing Charlie. And Scrap Trap, Afton's theatrical resurrection. Each salvage drew them into a labyrinthine facility beneath the pizzeria, a maze of vents and offices where they roamed, their remnant-fueled aggressions contained by doors and distractions. Henry's plan aimed to gather these fractured souls in one place, a calculated convergence that promised release through destruction. As the week culminated, Henry activated his endgame, igniting the pizzeria in a controlled blaze designed to overheat the remnant, binding the spirits. In his recorded speech, Henry addressed each soul, acknowledging the wound Afton first inflicted that had festered into widespread suffering. The fire consumed the structure, with Henry remaining nearby to share the fate. The player, inferred as Michael, perished alongside his undead form, finally at rest. The Lawkeeper ending revealed graves in a misty field. Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz, and Cassidy at rest with Charlie, overlooking from a hill, symbolizing her guardianship even in release. In the shadowed recesses of William Afton's tormented existence, following the pizzeria simulator fire, a vengeful spirit known as the One You Should Not Have Killed anchored him in endless suffering. This entity, possibly Andrew from parallel accounts, manifested through mediocre melodies, animatronics, and fragmented dialogues, puppeteering them to echo promises of eternal confinement. Afton's nightmares unfolded as Ultimate Custom Night, a relentless gauntlet where he relived attacks from animatronics across his bloody history. Each assault a reminder of his crimes, from the fear experiments in his bunker to the murders that shattered families. Cassidy, the spirit within Golden Freddy, amplified this hell, his malevolent gaze appearing intermittently, ensuring Afton's pleas for mercy went unanswered. Yet within this abyss, glimmers of release emerged for some. Cassidy, depicted as a boy, confronted his own unrest, finding peace through serene visions. Andrew's grip persisted, exploding Afton's form at a distribution center, spreading agony that infected items and birthed the Stitch Wraith, a fusion of souls, including Jake, to collect and neutralize tainted remnants. In the sterile confines of Heracles Hospital following the blaze, William Afton lingered on life support, his charred form defying death through the unyielding grip of Andrew's vendetta. Nurses and a priest grappled with the unnatural persistence as Andrew's presence grew. Eventually, Afton's transfer to the Fazbear Entertainment distribution center culminated in his body's explosion, spreading infected remnants across stored items. From the debris emerged the Stitch Wraith, an endoskeleton fused with souls, including Andrew's vengeful energy, the innocent Jake from a cancer-stricken past, and remnants of Afton's malevolence. The Stitch Wraith, compelled to collect infected items, wandered abandoned factories, its touch withering victims and leaving black tear streaks symbolic of sorrow stain. Years after the foundational tragedies, a young boy named Oswald found himself drawn into the faded remnants of Jeff's Pizza, a rebranded shell of the original 1985 Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Seeking escape from summer boredom, he hid in the ball pit, only to emerge in a supernatural recreation of the 1985 pizzeria. This realm, tied to the agony of William Afton's crimes, manifested a monstrous yellow thing, an organic entity born from dark residue, its black tears symbolizing sorrow, stain. Over 5 nights, Oswald navigated the shadowed spaces, evading the creature while uncovering clues to rescue trapped children. Oswald confronted the yellow thing in the party room, a redecorated safe room. As he defeated it, the creature became ensnarled in the pit's netting, allowing their escape back to reality. The yellow thing followed but strangled itself in frantic struggles. Its defeat restored Jeff's pizza to a cleaner, livelier state. Long after the fires that consumed Fazbear's physical remnants, the company sought to reclaim its narrative by commissioning an indie developer to create video games mocking tragedies as urban legends. These games required authentic elements, leading Fazbear to supply vintage circuit boards from old animatronics for scanning into the virtual reality framework. This process unleashed Glitch Trap, a digital manifestation blending the mimic's programming with echoes of William Afton's memories. Its rabbit-like form a haunting callback to Spring Bonnie. Beta tester Jeremy encountered this anomaly and reported night terrors, his distress culminating in self-harm with a guillotine paper slicer. Tape Girl took over, documenting the glitch's spread in hidden logs. Glitch Trap's influence grew, attaching to recordings and manifesting as a watchful figure. This digital incursion, rooted in Fazbear's hubris of repurposing haunted hardware, sowed seeds of new possession as the VR experience blurred lines between simulation and spectral reality. As development pressed on, Vanessa assumed beta testing duties, piecing together Tape Girl's warnings. Each collection drew Glitch Trap closer in vivid clarity. In the pizza party level, the entity recreated Afton's murders, stuffing the player into a Freddy suit on stage, a parallel to the mimic's overtime antics where victims met similar fates. Vanessa's unwitting assembly allowed partial merging, trapping her behind a digital door as Glitch Trap retreated with a shushing gesture. Her compliance induced through manipulated code that echoed Afton's voice, mimicking tech. Emerging as a plush in the lobby, Glitch Trap solidified its escape, transforming Vanessa into a reluctant follower whose actions now aligned with its whims. Tape Girl's final log proposed a hard reset to purge the entity, flushing memory and code. Yet the merge's subtlety evaded full erasure, a consequence of scanning remnant-tainted boards that perpetuated Afton's legacy in virtual form. This VR rebirth extended Fazbear's cycle of deception where scanned relics birthed new threats. Following her partial merger with Glitch Trap in the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, Vanessa returned through the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, a seasonal expansion immersed in Halloween-themed challenges set against the 1983 Fall Fest backdrop. These levels evoked the carnival's festive yet ominous atmosphere, with attractions referencing the fire that claimed Fiona Murray's life. Vanessa navigated these virtual spaces, collecting keys amid glowing pumpkins and shadowy figures, her actions guided by Glitch Trap's lingering influence that twisted playful minigames into eerie pursuits. Uncovering a glitchy purple key after gathering all standard exits granted access to a hidden cellar at the maze's center, a dimly lit chamber echoing the underground facilities of Afton's experiments. Here she crafted the Vanny mask, a white rabbit visage with patchwork fur and glowing red eyes that appealed to Glitch Trap's mimicry roots. Back in the lobby, Vanessa addressed the Glitch Trap plush, affirming her creation, her mask a tool for blending into the shadows. The cellar's isolation mirrored safe rooms of old, providing space for this transformation without detection. Its glitchy key a callback to cursed artifacts in Fazbear lore. Decades after the smoldering ruins of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria simulator settled, Fazbear Entertainment embarked on an ambitious revival, constructing the sprawling Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizza directly atop the buried remnants of that fateful site. This vast venue, rising in the modern era around the 2030s, featured the glam rock animatronics, updated variants echoing Fiona Murray's sketches. Freddy stood as the charismatic leader with orange fur and top hat, while Bonnie's blue guitar form shared a close bond marked by heartfelt messages. The Pizzaplex's expansive layout included themed areas like Roxy Raceway and Monty Golf, drawing families to bright lights and games. Yet the underlying sinkhole from the old pizzeria's fire provided a hidden layer where remnant echoes lingered beneath polished floors. Montgomery Gator, an MCM-inspired alligator from Fiona's designs, emerged as a disruptive force. His aggression culminated in the destruction of Glamrock Bonnie, elevating Monty to the band and fracturing group harmony. The introduction of staff bots, mechanical workers replacing human employees, ensured efficient operations but evoked uncanny sterility. Glitch Trap's digital tendrils persisting from scanned relics corrupted this new era through Vanessa and a boy named Gregory, their encrypted communications revealing schemes to commandeer the venue. Years after digital shadows of Glitch Trap wove through Fazbear's remnants, Gregory found himself locked inside the vast Freddy Fazbear's mega pizza after closing hours. His presence drew the attention of corrupted Glamrock animatronics. Glamrock Freddy, rebooting in safe mode that severed his ties to the network's glitches, discovered Gregory and chose to protect him. Their alliance formed amid echoing atriums as Gregory navigated the sprawling complex, evading Chica's trash compactor wanderings, Monty's swampy pursuits, and Roxy's assured patrols. Vanessa, embodying her Vanny persona in a patchwork rabbit suit, lurked in vents and offices directing staff bots and wind-up music men. This nocturnal odyssey tested Gregory's resourcefulness as he upgraded Freddy with salvage parts from shattered comrades, each dismantling a toll on the once vibrant band. As dawn approached, Gregory and Freddy confronted Vanny in her phaser blast lair, forcing Gregory to flee through laser-lit corridors. There, he accessed the Princess Quest arcade, releasing Vanessa from digital entrapment and deactivating bots in a cascade of silence. The trio escaped the Pizzaplex, their departure a fragile truce amid the venue's ruins. Beneath it all, in the sinkhole cradling the old pizzeria's basement, a decayed rabbit form lingered in his charging pod, mimicking Afton's guise. The Tangle, an amalgamation of Funtime parts, lurked in the depths, its aggression implying guardianship over the site's buried horrors. Months after the Pizzaplex's abandonment, Cassie received a desperate message mimicking Gregory's voice, drawing her back to the crumbling structure. Lured by promises of rescue, she encountered Mazbot delivering a security mask that thrust her into the AR network, a surreal overlay where digital nodes locked down the ruins. Guided by a deceptive helpie, Cassie navigated flooded basements and shattered salons, evading ruined Glamrocks. In the daycare, she rebooted the fractured daycare attendant, fusing Sun and Moon into Eclipse. Deactivating security nodes, she unwittingly dismantled MXE, the rabbit-like entity manifesting F10N4's Cradle program. As Cassie delved into the sinkhole's abyss, Gregory's voice warned of deception, while Roxy emerged to aid her escape. Fleeing the mimic's grasp through caves laced with MCM costumes, Cassie powered an old elevator. Its ascent a brief reprieve before Gregory's claim of cutting the cable plunged her into darkness. This ambiguous drop left her fate hanging in the void. Alternate paths diverged with possibilities of salvation or illusion. The cliffhanger route, implied as potentially canon, solidified the mimic's liberation, its bulky form repaired from Edwin's schematics, a harbinger of renewed pursuits. In the flickering overlay of the abandoned Pizzaplex's AR network, a Fazbear technician found himself ensnared in employee training simulations. Guided by the enigmatic Mystic Hippo, he progressed through categories like backstage repairs and food prep, each level immersed in the Pizzaplex's faded mechanics. Throughout, Glitch Trap's remnants sabotaged tasks, doling out memory figures of Afton's victims. Their collection, a subtle trap that reassembled the entity's code. This entrapment transformed routine simulations into prelude for transformation as his efforts unwittingly advanced the mimic's escape plan. As simulations culminated, he assembled Fazforce action figures into a glitchy construct, inadvertently summoning Glitch Trap's form from a charging pod. Staff bots dismantled him into Mazbot, a pivotal entity in the mimic scheme. This canon ending led directly to Ruins events where Glitchtrap's preservation of parts post-Princess Quest kept the technician alive as a vessel for rebuilding. As echoes of earlier tragedies intertwined with modern digital realms, the Into the Pit game adapted elements from Fazbear Frights. Oswald's quiet struggle within a decaying town unfolded where Jeff's Pizza stood as a faded remnant of 1985. His plunge into the ball pit surfaced him in a supernatural facsimile of the past pizzeria, halls alive with agony-fueled haze. The Yellow Thing, a fleshy entity, recreated 1985 murders while pursuing him through shadowed corridors. Oswald's journey, potentially reliving his own demise, culminated in saving trapped children and confronting the creature in the sealed safe room. Its defeat restored normality to his family life. This adaptation bridged book parallels with game continuity, suggesting the pit's illusions as releases orchestrated by figures like Jake. Looking ahead from 2025, the full release of Secret of the Mimic expanded upon its 1979 prelude, delving deeper into Edwin Murray's fractured legacy and the endoskeleton's adaptive rage. Its ties to Glitchtrap's digital emergence suggested unresolved threads about the Mimic's freedom post-Ruins as a catalyst for renewed threats. Crossovers released in 25, such as integrations with Dead by Daylight and fan-inspired recreations, hinted at ongoing digital and possession motifs where Mimic-driven entities infiltrated new mediums. These developments, rooted in evolving narratives, suggested future entries where virtual fires and physical ruins converge. The timeline's quiet progression from buried diners to augmented echoes underscored Fazbear's persistent shadows, a gentle reminder that some hauntings lingered beyond resolution in the company's vast, unfolding chronicle. As the threads of Fazbear Entertainment's haunted legacy weave toward the present in October 2025, the timeline stands as a tapestry of quiet losses and mechanical echoes. From 1970s origins with Emily and William Afton, through Edwin Murray's tragic creations, each step built upon fragile ambitions shattered by personal grief. The 1983 bite that claimed the crying child's life, Charlie's rain-soaked end, and the 1985 missing children incident marked irreversible turns, their possessions a silent consequence of Afton's pursuit of immortality through Remnant. Circus Baby's fatal embrace of Elizabeth, underground nightmares, and the 1987 bite layered the narrative with cycles of deception. Fires unearthed horrors, while Henry's final blaze freed most souls. Yet Andrew's vengeful hold on Afton in Hospital Nightmares and the Stitch Wraith's agony collections extended unrest. These foundations, grounded in developer insights and novel parallels, remind us how innovations often conceal deeper voids, leaving a chronicle where mechanical guardians turn predators in quiet pursuit of forgotten joys. Looking ahead from 25 with Secret of the Mimic's expansion and crossovers hinting at unresolved whispers, the timeline suggests Vanny's potential as separate entity, the Tangle's amalgamated watch, and the Mimic's liberation as harbinger of renewed threats. As this chronicle draws toward its present moment, we find ourselves in a landscape where physical pizzeras have crumbled, but digital fires and agony spreads endure, where remnant binds continue to echo through the machinery. The story of Fazbear Entertainment remains one of innovation twisted into tragedy, of souls seeking release amid mechanical prisons, of how past wounds shape unseen futures in ways both terrible and profound. This complete timeline from the quiet 1970s through the tumultuous decades that followed to the present day carries within it the weight of countless tragedies, lost children, fractured families, and the relentless machinery of a company built on dreams that became nightmares. In this calm expanse where dates anchor the flow and souls drift between worlds, the story invites restful contemplation, a gentle close to cycles where spirits seek release amid the machinery's faint hum. promising that even in shadows, threads may yet unravel toward dawn. Let yourself drift now into sleep, carried by these whispered histories, knowing that this tale of animatronics and spirits, of innovation and tragedy, continues its endless dance through time, waiting for the next listener to join the chorus of those who remember.